Hello, boys and girls. Today's lesson, we are going to work on adding and subtracting mixed numbers. Mixed numbers means that we have a whole number along with a fraction. So we are going to do two problems together. The problems we're going to do together are 3 and 5/8 plus 5/12. And the second problem is 7 and 2/3 minus 3 and 1/6. So the cool thing about adding and subtracting mixed numbers is that we've already learned how to find common denominators between fractions. So that's our first step. We find our common denominator, we change our fractions to have common denominators, and we actually don't have to do anything to our whole number until we set up our problem. So we're going to go ahead and get started. If you can already see it, I have our multiples listed on the board for us just to save a little bit of time. And we are going to start with our first problem. So I have went ahead and set up our problem on the board. We have 3 and 5/8 plus 5/12. I went ahead and set it up stacked on top of each other because that's easier for me when I'm adding and subtracting, because sometimes we might have to borrow, sometimes we may have to carry since we have our whole number. So this is how I like to set it up. So I know my 3 is going to stay the same, right? I'm not going to change my whole number, but I am going to change my fractions. And so I went ahead and left those fractions blank. I actually forgot to grab some dry erase markers, so I will grab those really quick and then we'll start. All right, sorry about that, guys. So I am first going to find a common denominator between 8 and 12. So on the board, I already have all of my multiples of 8 and 12 listed. So I'm going to give you just a second to look and see what is the least common denominator between 8 and 12. That's right, guys. 24 is the least common denominator with 8 and 12. So our new denominator for our new fractions is going to be 24. So I'm going to go ahead and put 24 as my denominator for both fractions. Now, my job is to ask, how did I get from 8 to 24? I multiplied by what? We can count if you're unsure. 1, 2, 3. I multiplied 8 times 3 to get to 24. And whatever I do to the bottom, I must do to the top. So now I multiply 5 by 3 and get 15. So my new fraction is 3 and 15 24ths. So I do the same thing with my second fraction, 5/12. How did I get from 12 to 24? Multiplied by 2. Whatever I do to the bottom, I must do to the top. So 5 times 2 is 10. So I have 3 and 15 24ths plus 10 24ths. I already know that my denominator is going to stay the same. So I'm going to go ahead and keep my denominator the same. Then I'm going to add my numerators. 15 plus 10. What is 15 plus 10? 25. Great job, guys. So 25 is my numerator. And then I add my whole numbers. 3 plus, this one didn't have a whole number, so this I could fill in a 0 if it helps. 3 plus 0 is 3. But remember, our answer has to be in simplest form. So even though we may think our answer is 3 and 25 over 24, our numerator is bigger than our denominator. So we have got to fix that, right? Your numerator can't be bigger than your denominator. If you remember a couple lessons ago, we showed how to change that. So how do we change that? We divide. 24 is our dividend and 24 is our divisor. So let me set that up for us really quick. So we would have 25 under the house and 24 outside of the house, and say, how many times does 24 go into 25? 1. 1 times 24 is 24. So we subtract and get 1 left over. If you remember, we write our remainder as a fraction by what we have left over, that 1 being our numerator, and what our divisor is our denominator. So 25 over 24 is the same as 1 and 1/24. But we still have this 3. So now we have to put together 3 and 1 and 1/24. So basically, you have another addition problem that you've made for yourself. This one's a little bit easier though, because 3 does not have a fraction. So we know our 1/24 is going to stay the same because we're not adding it to anything. And 3 plus 1 is 4. So your answer to 3 and 5/8 plus 5/12 is 4 and 1/24. This is the correct answer, but it is not in simplest form. So we have to make sure that our answers are always in simplest form. And this is how we got simplest form. Okay, 4 and 1/24. So I will go back to my original board and fill in the answer that we found. Now we are going to do a subtraction problem together. We have 7 and 2/3 minus 3 and 1/6. Just like last time, we need to find a common denominator between 3 and 6. So I have those on the board. Let's go ahead and look and see what that common denominator is going to be. 6, right? We could use 12, but since we want it in simplest form, we want to stick with our lowest common denominator. That way we don't have to reduce as many times. So our common denominator is 6. So I'm going to rewrite this stacked on top of each other with a common denominator of 6. And in order to do that, I'm going to grab my eraser. Alrighty, so our original problem was 7 and 2/3 minus 3 and 1/6. We want to stack them on top of each other. So I've got my 2 whole numbers stacked and my 2 fractions stacked, but I went ahead and changed my denominator to 6 because we're getting a common denominator of 6. So first we need to ask ourselves, how did we get from 3 to 6? We multiplied by 2. Whatever you do to the bottom, you must do to the top. So now we have to multiply 2 times 2, and 2 times 2 is 4. So when we have 3 and 1/6, how did we get from 6 to 6? We just multiplied by 1. It's already 6. So if we multiply by 1 on the bottom, we multiply by 1 on the top, and 1 times 1 is 1. Now we're going to do the same thing we did with adding, except we're subtracting. Make sure you pay attention to those signs because that could change your answer if you're adding rather than subtracting. So I always bring my denominator down first because I know it is not going to change. Then I have 4, and I'm taking away 1 for my numerator. So what is 4 minus 1? 3. And then I move to my whole numbers. 7 minus 3 is 4. So 4 and 3/6 is my answer, but I need to make sure this is in simplest form. 3, 6, can that be reduced any? Do they have any factors that can go into both of these numbers equally? The number 3, right? 3 is divisible by 3 and 6 is divisible by 3. So I can reduce my number, but I don't have to worry about my whole number, right? So I am going to divide the top by 3 and the bottom by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 6 divided by 3 is 2. So it's 1/2. But is my answer just 1/2? No, I can't forget about my 4, right? So my answer is 4 and 1/2. So I will fill that in on our original. So I've got both of my answers. 3 and 5/8 plus 5/12 is 4 and 1/24. And 7 and 2/3 minus 3 and 1/6 is 4 and 1/2. You have a short assignment below this video with 2 quick questions. They are both multiple choice. Make sure that your answer is in simplest form for both of the questions. I think on one you do have to regroup like we did with our addition problem. So make sure that you put your numerator as your dividend and your denominator as your divisor. And then don't forget to add back that whole number that you already had to begin with. If you have any questions, please let me know, and I will see you guys tomorrow. We will be subtracting with regrouping on mixed numbers. Have a great rest of your day.